It's Monday, and while the weekend might have felt like a blur, mine did not. The week is here, and so is Jasiri. Today, we're stepping into a space that's often neglected, especially in public discourse, widowhood. We're talking grief, stigma, cultural punishments, myths, and the resilience required to survive it all. This isn't just about loss, it's about identity. How can society do better by widows? And how do we move from mourning to meaning? We'll get into that in a bit, but first,
we need to ask the ladies, how was your weekend?
Man, I don't even know.
Okay, Catherine, start.
I don't even know. No. I think I woke up today, would I say heavy or not feeling quite? Mondays are not my days. People know me, no, I don't do Monday. No. I'm trying to get you to say, okay, maybe Mondays we can do something like this, but it's not working. It's not working. I don't know what I used my weekend to do, actually. We can just pass in a blur.
Yeah,
I was studying, but yeah.
Tolu, was your own blur too?
No, yours was, Tolu's was
colorful. Been a blur. I wish it was a blur, but I felt every single moment of the pain. Guys, on Friday, I got 4 teeth removed.
Oh my God.
I got 9 injections in my gums. Oh. I got an injection in my bum. So I apparently broke 3 drill needles because my bones were too dense in my mouth, and I'm still in recovery. And then added the antibiotics. So that feeling. So when the first day I took it, I'm feeling so heavy. The antibiotics are
and then the antibiotics are reporting to you because every time you use the bathroom, it's like, ooh la la, we are here.
Everywhere, just everywhere. It smells. I would like
you want to run away from yourself, but you cannot.
Every time I take that yellow vitamin B, it colors your urine.
People are supposed to be helping me, you know.
Thank God,
baby.
But I
can imagine.
But you're strong, T. I don't know how you do it because
I probably will be under my.
I'm not going to
I'm usually after the show today.
It's very painful. I think my weekend was spent in tiredness. Honestly, I overworked myself from Thursday till like Saturday morning. I was on set. After I left work, I went on set. Then I had an MC job to do.
No, you see, you are the problem. Lolo came back, hit the ground running. That's the word. You have not caught a break.
The guard is running me.
So you've not caught a break since.
What can I do? When you go on vacation, everybody knows that you spend a lot of money.
So it's as if when
you come back, the bills are waiting for you. And for my own bills, they are all girls, and they wear stilettos and they are crossing their legs. So no matter what I do, I have to service them like a good sugar daddy.
Glucose guardian.
It was not funny, so I was really comatose. But one thing I have learned is that when you're tired, I did nothing on Saturday. I felt like my volume was low. You know, when you remove volume completely, I sat on my bed. I won't lie, I just kept calling for food. They would bring food to the room and I would eat. I would only go to the bathroom to pee. And by Sunday, I felt a little better. But you know, in the evening, you start to feel tired again. But now I know that older women, we need to exercise. Whether we like it or not, we have to find some other way. These bone density, muscle tiredness, all those things are real. But you have to, and the unfortunate thing is that what makes you tired is what is going to give you energy.
I think, and then as you grow older, I think we don't walk enough. When I say walk, waka, we don't walk enough. We go from car, you just take your, from your car takes you from one place to the other, and then you come down. We really don't walk enough. Because I'm not a gym person. I tell Kate, I tell Kate all the time that this thing you're doing, I can't. But walk, I can. So I think what we should do consciously is to try and walk, even though it can be very
So you know this
testing
point about walking,
in Lagos.
I think this is also, when we start talking about building a smart city, you have to be smart in making it easy for people to make certain lifestyle choices. So because those lifestyle choices, at the end of the day, they are things that rebound on the city. They rebound on city productivity. They rebound on how happy people are to be in the city. They rebound on the pressure on the healthcare services. The more a city is built and encourages people to walk, research shows that the less of certain type of medical issues that city overall will face. So if we talk about being a smart city, We need to start encouraging smart behavior, and I think our generation is a
Imagine
bit
you're
lost.
riding bicycle. I doubt if anybody
Remember the guy that was
bicycle safely from the island to the mainland.
Anytime, I remember seeing them in the mornings when I was doing radio, and they always had, they were brightly lit and everything, but even now, some of them have like some kind of, they've done a method in which you can't miss them, and there's like not a patrol vehicle, but another vehicle or somebody who's like...
I'm just talking about commuting, like using bicycle as a means of transportation.
Oh, no, there's a guy, I remember.
In London, you can actually ride your bicycle. Like my brother-in-law will ride his bicycle from the home to the train station, pack it up, put it in the train.
And there are places where you don't have to ride. You don't have to own the bike. There are bikes there.
Then you can rent.
Ride-hailing bikes.
That culture.
We don't.
We don't.
So the moment you take your bicycle,
is it that we don't understand, we don't appreciate it? Because we see cars as a status symbol.
Both. Yeah. Because number one, where are you going to ride them? We have no
designated.
Exactly.
Sidewalk the slab is missing. You're just falling inside.
Number two, it's like you say, a perception thing. Now, wow, you're riding bike to where? Get out of the road. Somebody can use legs and kick you out of the road. So there's no respect for that. I remember when I was abroad for a number of years, and, they asked me, don't I ride a bicycle? Don't we ride bicycles?
Right.
And I had to laugh. I said, where I come from
cars.
That you ride. And they were looking at it like, and it made me realize that, geez, man, we need to do better. We need to do better. And regularize riding bicycles. It will save so much, cleaner energy. Let's not go there.
And we should get a dentist in, because we talked about Tolu's pain.
Yes, we should.
And I found out that abroad, it's like mandatory for you to do dental checks from time to time. But here in Nigeria, maybe because we believe that the service is expensive, that's why a lot of people shy away from just visiting the dentist and, taking care of your teeth. I find out that it's only when we have dire circumstances, pain that we can no longer manage, that we think of, a dentist to go there. Honestly, we need to know some of these things. And teeth hacks. Now I'm seeing people gargling with coconut oil pulling. Oil pulling. There's so many things people are doing to get fresher breath. Maybe we should really get a dentist in. Let's have some kind of robust
dentist, because I was supposed to see it today. Guys, I took the teeth home and I've used it to scare my daughter. I'm like, you need to understand, little madam. And then I took it home. Then my father now added on top that he took, because there's a part of your dental health that is also hereditary. So there's a part of it that's hereditary. So I think like how your dentation comes from your family, either one of your parents, I don't know which one. But there's a part of your dental health that's also hereditary. But man, so the electric toothbrushes, the oil pulling, the charcoal, does it really white? So there's a whole lot going on right now. There's a lot going on in my mouth.
And so I know my aunt back in Calabar, you cannot tell her anything. My auntie. She will use chewing stick and that's it. She's not using toothpaste. She's not using...
Medicinal. It works.
You wake up in the morning, she has a toothpick that she's not playing. Like, not toothpick, like
the chewing stick.
Until they...
And the bad habit.
And you see her there.
My bad habit was ice. I can chew ice. If my husband's listening,
really kills your teeth.
Not that it chips. I chipped my tooth chewing ice. That was what sent me last year, and that is when my problem started. And I can chew ice. I chewed ice all through my pregnancy. I chewed ice when I was in labor. They didn't give me anything else but ice and cold drink and graham crackers. And I kept chewing ice. So last week I was chewing ice.
Wow.
And then
see the person was.
So how dare you complain?
We should not feel sorry for me, because as they were doing makeup, why did you feel like he was trying to stab me?
Wow.
I'm in pain.
You see? I used to like ice. I think everybody's guilty of that. You know how you open when you're younger, you open the fridge and just scrape under there, and then you just stand there and chew until my mother.
That's like that kind of ice.
My mother wiped me and they tower. That's what it happened.
Please, let's go on the break. Guys, you can obviously see it's a struggle this Monday morning, but we're here for you because we do what we do, and that is Wijasiri. So up next, a conversation we can't afford to ignore. Every year, millions of women lose their partners, but in many parts of the world, including right here in Nigeria, they lose so much more. Their homes, their rights, their dignity. As we mark International Widows' Day, we're shining a light on the pain, the silence, and the strength of women left behind and the systems that too often fail them. Joining us after the break is Diane Qalu, founder, WiCare Lekota Foundation. Stay with us.
This is Jasiri. So, It is estimated that Nigeria is home to anywhere between 15 to 21 million of the world's 258 million widows. While the exact number of widows in Nigeria is debatable, it is clear that a substantial portion of the female population is widowed, and this is partly due to men remarrying more frequently than women. Widows in Nigeria face a multitude of issues stemming from cultural practices, societal discrimination, lack of legal protection, often leading to poverty, social isolation, and even violence. These challenges are exacerbated by harmful traditional practices surrounding widowhood and inadequate legal frameworks to protect their rights. Many Nigerian cultures subject widows to rituals and customs that are dehumanizing and oppressive, including forced mourning rituals, restriction on movement, and social interaction. Oh, not to talk about the shaving of hair. Today on Jasiri, we are spotlighting widowhood, what it means to lose, to be silenced, and to survive. Our guest is a woman whose experience with loss became a catalyst for healing, not just for herself, but for others too. Diane Qalu is the founder of WiCare Lekota Foundation, a non-profit that advocates for young widows, supports women through healing, empowerment, and capacity-building programs. She's also a certified grief educator and a certified emotional intelligence. Diane, you are very welcome to Jasiri.
Thank you so much. I'm very delighted to be here. Thank you.
All right, Diane, let's just start at the very beginning. Just, maybe take us through your own personal story. What was life like for you immediately after your husband passed? Because I know there is a story there always.
Oh, yes. So today it's personal to me because 10 years ago, my husband passed away. At that time, I had toddlers and an infant. So my first was 4 years, my second was 22 months, and my daughter was just 8 weeks old. Wow. It was quite devastating. It was like someone bringing you out to the desert and leaving you out there, not knowing where you're going, left or right. It was, very unexpected and very terrifying. You're suddenly, one moment you're a married woman, the next moment you're not sure who you are. You're not sure if you're single, if you're married, if you're youth, if you're, a lot of confusion and, a lot of stigmatization as well. Because people expect that you shouldn't come out for 40 days because it's the tradition or the culture. And then I began to ask questions. Who actually started this culture? And why? Why are we not allowed to go out? And nobody could answer that question. Everybody just kept saying, that's it, that's what we always do. And then at the end of the day, my summation of everything is that we are being oppressed by dead people, by our dead ancestors.
Diane,
Diane,
I want you to hold on to that because as you're talking particularly about the 40 days, I remember the situation with Junior Pope's wife. Yeah. And when she came back out and she started working and people were like, oh, she was not observing tradition. I mean, she made a very valid point and said, but who's going to provide for the children left behind? Who's going to provide for the children that I have to take care of now that my husband is no longer with us? And you're talking a little bit about the stigmatization. I want to know, how did your community respond to your widowhood? Was there compassion or was there isolation? Because sometimes people act like it's a contagious disease when a woman becomes a widow.
Yes, it was a little of both, more of support, and then the isolation, because a couple of persons decided that I wasn't worthy to associate with them, or they decided that I was too dressed up to be a widow. Like, I should have burnt all my clothes, shaved my hair, looked very dejected to satisfy, their, selfish perception. This 40 days rite, it wasn't even something that, it was just because of the environment where I was living. And a lot of people frowned at it. For example, I had a 2-month-old, pretty much, and she needs to get her immunization. So was I supposed to allow her, get sick because I'm trying to observe cultural rites? You see, the way grief is being policed in Africa is so appalling. The expectations, the experience. And I would say media contributed to that. Nollywood movies. Not these, and always portraying widows in a certain light. So everybody assumes that the moment the man dies, she loses herself, she loses her identity, she loses who she is. And to be fair, grief is not just an emotional thing. It affects the woman's physical health, her identity, as I've mentioned, her mental health, her finances, even social status, because people don't want to, like you said, people don't want to associate with you. But for you, the widow, if you're listening in, you have to learn to self-advocate. Self-advocacy is the way, because if you know these things and you're able to stand up for yourself, know who you are, none of these things would matter in a few years. Right now, all the people who try to stigmatize me are now the ones singing my praise because I didn't give into, some of the things that they wanted. Some of the things that they said, oh, you're dressing too nice. You need to, dress down so that people can pity you. What does that mean?
All right, so
if you don't want to help leave the person alone. So they see pity, they see you doing well, and there's this assumption that all is well with you. All right, right? And they forget these clothes. You had them before your husband passed, correct? Yeah. So what were you supposed to do with them?
That's you being a lone voice in the wilderness. In many African societies, more African societies, the practices are worse than here in Nigeria. But what stands out is that widowhood comes with cultural expectations, whether it's in North Africa, West Africa, East Africa, or even Southern Africa. There are even punishments in some cases. So for you, let me just, can you cast your mind back and tell us if you did personally experience any traditional practices, anyone that stood out to you, and how they affected you, and probably how you also turned that around?
Okay, so so my family was very supportive and protected me a lot. So I didn't have to do the all the shaving of hair and the things that happen. For me, the most terrifying thing was the fact that I was isolated. However, in my community, there were women who had to sit up for many nights, 12 nights in a row without sleeping. There were women whose hairs were shaved. There were women whose husbands' properties were collected from them. As a matter of fact, there was one who was thrown out and she had to live in an uncompleted building. And while living in that uncompleted building, she was raped.
Oh, God.
And it was in that uncompleted building that we found her and paid for her hospital bills. And then she gave birth to that child, a baby boy. So in 2025, mine was 10 years ago, but I can tell you right now, it's still very prevalent. It's still very, very, very prevalent in 2025. There are so many stories. There's even another case where the woman, she was told that she had to buy back her children. That if she didn't buy them, they would die.
No.
Diane, wait. She had to buy back her children. How much was she supposed to buy her children back for? The children that she cared for 9 months, the children that she nursed, the children that she has been responsible for and taking care of. How much was she supposed to buy them back? And this was from the husband's family, I'm presuming, or from who?
Of course, from the husband's family. She's supposed to do certain rites. As a matter of fact, some of these women were asked to bring monies to bury their husbands. Some of them were not working. Remember, some of these women, like in WiCare, we have more younger widows within the ages of 22 and 40. So you'll agree with me, a 22-year-old or a 25 years old or a 30-year-old, it's not old enough to, know all these things. You're trying to find yourself.
Yeah.
This lady was asked to pay, I think she was asked to pay either 100,000 or something with goats and some, food
to make soup and feed greedy people.
What did you say?
I said goats and pepper to make soup and feed people who have no business doing that.
Exactly. A particular woman actually attempted suicide. In fact, we've been able to, intervene in, I think, 3 cases of women who have endured so much hardship, so much stigmatization, that their last resort was to commit suicide. They just wanted to end it. And the scary part, I don't know if anyone has seen the movie Straw. That movie spoke to my soul, because I've seen these women get to that place where they want to just end it all. They're not thinking. They just want to end it all and say, you know what, damn the consequences. I'm tired. No support from the government, no support from the in-laws, no support from the community. So if I'm permitted to say, I'd like to, encourage everyone who is listening today, if there is a widow around you, involve her, include her, visit, call, be kind. Even if you don't have anything nice to say, just leave her alone,
Diane.
No one is at the end of the day.
Diane, I listen and I've interacted with a lot of widows. And I'm wondering that even with all the advocacy, with all the knowledge out there, why is there still so much silence and shame surrounding widowhood, especially in African communities? We've had films done, we've seen experiences, people have come out to tell their stories, but you would think by now we should be saying, oh, in the past, it used to be like this. Yeah. In the past, it used to be like this. But we're still seeing in present times some of these things happening. So why is there this continued silence and shame that women, especially women,
only women,
because I hardly think that widowers have to go through this.
Yeah.
In fact, at the demise of their wives, they are encouraged to even hold the hand of another woman for support, not to talk of women.
So here are a few points. I think the reason I think these things still exist, right? The first one is that we treat it with kids' fingers. What do I mean by that? It's until it happens and then we realize that it's actually still happening. The awareness, okay, after today, where we raise awareness about this today, probably the next time we're going to hear on this topic will be next year. It's not actively talked about as we think. Most of the time, most women, you know how they say, God forbid, and we all know that God forbid is not risk management, right?
Yeah.
So most women assume that, oh, God forbid, it can't happen to me. So they do not equip themselves enough with the right information, right? And then at the state levels, I know some states have, the VAP, Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, that was enacted in 2015. I know that, some states have started to enforce, but the enforcement is weak, very, very weak. If we had more, more people meting out these atrocities, being actually held accountable and publicized the way we publicize every other thing, it would, I'm sure it would, bring more awareness. And the fact that, like you said earlier, that people look at widowhood as a contagious or an infectious disease. So people hardly want to talk about these issues. They don't want to own it. They don't want to say, oh, this happens, until you start to talk to them or start to think back. If you look at it, in every family, I'm sure you must find one widow or two widows. You must. So until we learn a voice consistently learn a voice, and also to the churches and the mosques, places of prayers. I think that if we are able to get, this topic to them, to say, look, if a widow is in your midst, no isolation, treat them well, make sure that they are involved, they are included, I think it will help to ease all the burden, all the stigma around widowhood.
All right.
Because basically,
okay,
he loses her identity, and no one is, giving her an opportunity to belong. She's suddenly the pedestal where marriage has been placed on. The moment you lose your spouse, whether by widowhood or by circumstances, you no longer belong to a certain status.
All right, Diane, please hold that thought. We'll go for a short break here on Jasiri. If you've just joined us, this is Jasiri, and the spotlight is on widowhood. We'll be right back after the break.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, of course, this is Jasiri, and we are on all your social media platforms at News Central TV. Widowhood isn't just about loss. It's about what comes after. For too many women, the death of a husband marks the beginning of stigma, isolation, and injustice. Today on Jasiri, we are confronting the harsh realities widows face, from harmful cultural practices to legal and economic exclusion, and we're asking, when will the society stop punishing women for surviving? It's time to speak the truth, stand with the widows, and demand better. We have Diane Qalu, the founder of WiCare Lekota Foundation. She's still with us. And she's also a Forbes Africa honoree. Diane, you've shared your experience about widowhood and why you think it still carries the shame it does. Can we share some of the stories? I know that you have a foundation. You've worked with various women. Even all of us on this table, we've been privileged to hear some ear-popping stories. Like you will be like, no, it can't be true. Can you share some of those heart-wrenching stories that some widows have, told you about, that people that are listening or watching us, can learn one or two things from, or even realize that such bad acts or bad things, terrible practices are still existing?
There are so many. Okay, there was one that her mother-in-law shaved her hair, and because she had 3 girls, they decided that they would shave the hairs of her 3 girls, and they actually did. They shaved off all the hairs on her 3 girls. Now, after they did that, they told her, they moved her out of the, the house where she lived with her husband because it was a family house, and they threw her things out of the house. That's one. Then the other story, because I would also want it to just be negative. I would also like to share about the women who endured this, and regardless, they found their feet. So the other one, while her husband was still in the hospital, her brother-in-law went to the house, locked the house. She had, as at that time, she had I think a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old daughter, as at that time. They locked the house, took the keys, and she had to sleep on the streets while her husband's body was in the morgue. But today, that lady found her feet and she had to leave the country. And she's doing much, much better. And then there was another one that became a police case. They accused her of killing the man. They told her to come to their hometown to come and swear an oath, and she did. She actually went there. They took her to a shrine. She swore an oath. Now, after swearing that oath, they told her that a few days later that she needs to come back for certain rites. Apparently, they were planning to secretly marry her off to the husband's brother without her knowledge, meaning that she's an inheritable property of their family. So someone, actually told her, and she avoided that meeting. If you ask me, I don't know which one to say, which one to talk about, and the one to leave, because they are very horrendous stories. Too many to mention. Too many to mention. So I'd like to say to everyone out there, when you see a widow, you see a badge of honor. Now, not all widows who endure these harmful widowhood practices can come out and say their story. Some are ashamed because of the stigma. We also have the wealthy widows. Some people think because they are wealthy, they have it easier. No, they don't. Especially if the husband left behind a lot of properties.
Diane, as you're saying this now, ladies, there's a trending story from last week of the man who died and said that his wife cannot remarry. That if she happens to remarry, she'll lose the inheritance that he has left behind for her. Yeah. And Diane, there are a few things. That's probably more common than a lot of people think it is. But Diane, I want to say a few things. You said a few things that have stuck out to me. One, we're being held hostage by our dead ancestors. You also said that God forbid is not a strategy, and all of that. And when you talked about some of the situations, these are clothes that widows had before. They're supposed to completely just die themselves. And we've constantly had these conversations. And one of the things I appreciate Jasiri for, we had Joan Stephen Patrick here, who also runs a foundation for widows. And if you see her now, nobody would believe that she lost her husband a few years ago, in all honesty. She has been very intentional about taking care of herself, about dressing well, about presenting this picture. And I always remember when she had a Christmas party for widows last year, there was a woman who sent a voice note to one of the widows who was at the party who said, it's like you're the one, don't let people think you're the one who killed your husband, though. You're having so much fun. It's like you're joining Egbe, you're joining this group of women. Don't let them think that you're happy that your husband is dead. Yeah. And I say all of this to say, because one of the most interesting contradictions for me is how men, when they become widowers, are treated. You can almost count down to when someone will say they need to remarry so they can get someone to take care of them, or if they have children, female family members are sometimes expected to pick up the care slack. But for women, it's who will marry you now, and you should accept whatever is given to you. Men will go to widows and try to use that, who's going to marry you, just be my side chick, I'll take care of you, just as a way for them to accept anything that is given to them. What do you think this says about how our societies in particular view women?
Especially women, treat other women as well.
That one too is coming, because they're the beholders and beholders of tradition.
I was going to talk about that the people who met out this ugliness to fellow widows or fellow women are actually women.
Yeah.
They are the ones who carry it. Yeah. As a matter of fact, some of these women who are the ones championing, I must shave your hair, I must do this, I must do that, are actually widows. So it's a question of hurt people.
Yeah.
Right? The ones who have endured the hurt now want to show others that, yes, I've endured it. You too, you should endure it. So I think that, of course, we live in a very masculine society. We all know that. I think that the moment we start to self-advocate, teach our girls from, the tender age who they are, let their voices be heard. Don't program them to say, you're a girl, you shouldn't do this. Allow them to be expressive, to be assertive. Teach them, let them know the law. As a matter of fact, I've started to teach my children. They need to know the law. They need to know what they need to know, With that kind of awareness, tomorrow, they are able to defend themselves. This VAP, the Violence Against People
Prohibition Act, yes.
Many women don't even know it. Yep. I was at a conference some time ago where they were trying to tell widows there's these legal practitioners. And I will encourage you guys to find a lot of them to come and talk about these things. They were saying, do you know, as a widow, you have this right, you have this right, you can do this, you can do that. It's available. But because our women are not taught to embrace these things, to know these things, they don't even know that you can actually take it to the law and the law will defend you. So Diane, it's all shrouded in a lot of ignorance.
Yes.
So
Diane,
women are just...
now that we're talking about the law, I want to know, because if something is not happening to you, you might not be calling on that area of the law. Would you say that we're doing better when it comes to legal protection of widows? Because I know, as of a fact, that a lot of new additional laws have been added, and some have been, variated in some way or the other, especially in the East, about maybe female children inheriting their father's properties. Where would you say we're standing? Because you're working in this niche area. Would you say the law is adequately covering and providing protection for widows, or there are still places they need to scale up when it comes to legal protection of widows in general?
My issue is enforceability. Enforceability. It's not being enforced. It's not just enacting these laws. They are not being held accountable, right? So, for example, if, let's say, an in-law takes a widow's property and actually, faces the law for it, and it's publicized, we actually have a scapegoat. That's enough to, one, embolden any woman who loses her husband. I think that it's weakened. We're not doing so much. I don't think that, the enforcement is at the level, it should be.
It should be.
I think that there needs to be more. More needs to be done. I think that, the Ministry of Women Affairs and, should do better in making sure that, I know they're doing a good job, but I think that it can be more.
So you don't think we need more laws? You just think that we need better enforcement of the laws that we have at the moment?
I didn't get that.
I said you don't think we need more laws. You just think we need enforcement, better enforcement of the ones that we have at present.
Laws However, if we don't enforce the ones that we have on ground and we add more to them, we need more laws definitely to tighten it, to make sure that, for example, this female inheritance issue is tackled head on in all the 36 states. Yes, we need more laws. However, it's step by step. If we're able to say this VAP Act, if we implement it and get it running, it will be easier to now spotlight where the loopholes are or where the lacunas are, to say, okay, I think in this area, we need to now strengthen this to make sure that these women are emboldened, these women don't feel afraid, And I would say to every married woman, know the traditions of your husband's place.
Hold on.
Like I said,
Wait, you're not hearing us.
Diane can hear us.
Wait, Diane, just wait.
Honestly, you hit a nail that we want to really emphasize. But we need to go on a quick break because when we come back, we'll start from that thing that you said just now. But for now, we'll be right back.
A conversation about grief and stigma, rethinking widowhood in Nigeria in honor and commemoration of International Widows Day, which is today, June 23rd, 2025. Now, our guest is Diane Qalu, and we've been getting into this conversation, and she touched on something that we want to go to. So I know it was a struggle to talk to my father about preparing a will, and given how we are as a people, wives trying to have that conversation with their husband would also struggle. No one prays for their spouse to die, but Diane, you said that God forbid is not a strategy, and I agree with you. But what do you think women should know or prepare for to keep themselves and their children protected if they should become widows? And you touched on something as we went for the break. You said, know the practices and the traditions of the family or the culture you're marrying into. Please expand on that.
Okay, so some of these women who have gone through this harsh treatments, married out of love, don't we all? And when the tragedy strikes, they now start to see the ugliness of where they are married into and the families they are married into. So for me, it's, if you're already married, just ask questions. What do they do to widows when they are, you don't need to make it public, but you just want to know. So that you have that information. Information is power. You are not prepared per se, but so you know what to expect. If, God forbid, something happens, you are prepared. You are ready, right? And then the second thing is, like this conversation we're having, go and do more research. Just know the laws that protect women when things like this happen. That way, with that knowledge, if anything happens, you are able to exercise your rights, know who to call, know what to do. Some of these women who lost properties and things like that did so because they were naive,
And there's also, and we've been hearing from lawyers, put your name on documents, your whole full name. There's no such thing as Mr. and Mrs. Balogun. It's a full road to meet all. Even I also put my middle name, all what you own, and we have to continue to encourage women, have your own source of income.
Questions. I know a woman who did not know her husband's account number till he passed away. She didn't know anything. The husband said, don't worry, I will take care of you. Just stay in the house and take care of my children. But even if you're being told that, right, you need to know. So let your inquisition or inquisitiveness, let it be heightened. Just know for knowing's sake, because you might actually need to defend yourself tomorrow. And ignorance is never an excuse. you will be, your ignorance is to the detriment of yourself and your children.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even the things that your dear husband has worked for. So as much as he wants, and there's nothing wrong in being a housewife, as long as you have it all covered, you have the right information about what and where things are, you're good.
Diane, please talk on the will, the provision of a will that Tolu teased the question. That's what do you think about making sure that your husband leaves a will or have that kind of discussion?
Without making it seem as if
you want him to die.
To die, yeah.
So this is where I would say your wisdom as a woman comes into play. So, for example, you don't go and start nagging the man. Hey, you will not write a will. You want to die now? No. There are ways to have those conversations. Read the room. Know when to have the conversation. And then, if there are opportunities where, topics like this are happening, right? You make him, or you share with him, he listens, you continue to follow up subtly. Because when you start to do it, like, start to follow up naggingly, he thinks that you want him gone so that you can have everything. You trade carefully. If you have legal advisors who are his friends, you could talk to them and say, encourage him. I don't even need to be in that conversation, but encourage him to have a will. Let him know the benefits of just having it, allay his fears. Let him not think that writing a will is like finality.
Wow, thank you so much, Diane Qalu. We have been really so much knowledge, we have been shared on this table. But I want to quickly ask, because our time is fast running out, how do we shift this conversation from seeing widows as passive victims to recognizing them as women who deserve autonomy, voice, leadership? And this is the media. What kind of role do you think that the media, religious leaders, schools, everywhere they interact in the society, what role can we play to making sure that some of these harmful, narratives can be changed?
Okay, that's a fantastic question. When we were starting, something was being said, and I loved it. From mourning to meaning, right? Rather than see mourning as a time to destroy the person or to stigmatize the person, let it be a time to actually show empathy. Let it be a time to help, to support this person, support this woman and her children. Let me quickly say this, and I know we haven't talked about the children. The children are a vital part of this conversation, because when a widow isn't able to take care of her children, it becomes a menace to the society, because they in turn become the people we don't want to face. If they are left abandoned because their mother, hasn't gotten herself together as a result of, societal ills, that child finds vices that, they will coping mechanisms, ugly coping mechanisms, and in turn, it becomes a menace for the society. So if we encourage meaning, support, empathy, kindness, it would help to, alleviate the pain. Then the next thing will be from the cultural oppressions, traditional oppressions, to legal protection. Let's actually raise a voice, and thank you for this invitation. Thank you for what you're doing at Jasiri. Let's continue to lend our voices to this conversation to make sure that there is advocacy, there is protection for every widow around you. You point them to the right direction to say, oh, I know somewhere you can get help. You ensure they get help. And for the media, I think that the media is so powerful that they can actually change this narrative. I mentioned Nollywood, before. I think that if Nollywood can improve, how they talk about widows.
Yes.
If the media can bring more widows who are doing better in their lives, you know, give them a voice, show that it's actually possible to be reintegrated in the society after loss. I think it would help to empower other women who are going through that. And then
thank you.
Diane, we apologize, we can't because of time. Yeah. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we do have to make our way quickly out of the studio, but we really appreciate your time and the work you're doing for those who have found themselves facing this period of time. It's not defining them, it's not an identity, it's just a period of time. Thank you so much for all you do, Diane. And thank you so much for joining us as well. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. West African time. You have a fantastic day.